oui, oui, oui. Oh, 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 oh. Baguette, baguette, baguette. Oh, 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 oui, oui, madame, madame.
Hello everyone, welcome to the video. My name is Bacon and today I will be taking a look at the AMX-50 Surblindé. This is a French heavy tank currently at a BR of 8.0 which mounts a 120mm main gun alongside a 20mm cannon as its main secondary weapon. Now you may be wondering why you can't see this vehicle in the French tech tree, and there is a fairly simple explanation. This is an event vehicle. This was the main prize for Season 1 of World War Mode, and it was given to the top 500 individual players and then the top 20 players from each of the top 25 squadrons, meaning that roughly 1,000 people would have been given the coupon for this vehicle. So now let's get into the things that you all want to see, the gameplay with the vehicle. Of course, later on, for anyone interested, I will be going into the history behind the vehicle in a short segment after we've looked at the gameplay. But to start off, I'm going to go look at the vehicle in ground RB battles. So we start off on Tunisia. This was actually my first game in the Surblindé, and I go to the A point because it's a built-up urban area, minimises the risk of being sniped, and here comes a Type 89. He fires two ATGMs into the front of my turret, only 85mm thick steel armour for majority of that turret front, and yet it appears they do no damage. I one-shot him, hull break, that's the first kill. Next up, we got a Type 74, Type 74G to be more specific. Shot to the side, knocks out the entire crew. He's an early MBT, the armour is weak, my AP shell is just over 300mm of penetration, doesn't really stand a chance. Another Type 89, it's a light infantry fighting vehicle. I have a shell with not only good pen, but also it's a high caliber shell, so hull break is basically inevitable. KV-1, not sure what that KV-1B was doing in this game, but again, big shell, lots of pen, goes straight through, and again, hull break as demonstrated by the Centauro. Big shell, it goes in, it hull breaks. I think we all get that by now. And finally, moving towards the enemy spawn near the end of the game, you know, we got a little Type 87 SPAA. All it takes is a shot to the sort of lower front section of the turret, and that is that. 6 kills in that first game for me, 3rd on the team, and that was, as I said, my first game in the vehicle. So definitely a game I was quite satisfied with. So now let's move on to our next game, which was actually the last game I did in the vehicle. So starting off, I'm able to get to the B point. Generally this map is very open, so getting into this point where there are trees, bushes, buildings to cover you, especially in a big tank, is useful, as you saw there. Not sure where it came from, not sure who fired it, but an ATGM was meters away from me, and luckily it hit a tree rather than my tank. An ATGM shot to the side, it wouldn't have been any good for me, that's for sure. Now, I do see another vehicle firing ATGMs. Poor little Recon Panzer here, Recon Panzer 2, little German ATGM boy. Unfortunately, he dies before I can save him. But all it takes is a shot to the face of that Bradley, and again, hull break due to the size and the pen of my shell, it just hull breaks him, and that is the end of him. Shot Caldelay, fire a shot into him, knock out the driver and the track. Unfortunately, fired a bit late as he started to reverse, missed out on that one shot, but then a second shot's all it takes to the front of the turret. He was turning his gun, and luckily I got him before he could get his gun on me. Fire another shot, bing bang boom, Sheridan taken out, just below the gun, went in, hull break, knocked out the crew. fairly simple kills there. So now what I do for this whole game is I literally do just hold the B point. An enemy starts capping, I decide the best thing to do is not to drive in. If he is alone in that zone and you don't quite know where he is, don't drive straight into the zone, because then he won't be able to cap. He will know you are there. What I'm doing here, scouting around. I'm on his side anyway, so I'm sort of bargaining that he won't be looking in this direction. So I'm sneaking around behind, looking into the zone, trying to spot him, and then I do. I see the top of his tank, get stopped. There are bushes, so I use binoculars to get a lock, and boom. There we go. He is now out. T92, taking him out, and now I can drive into the zone, cap it back as I do, and then I see another enemy coming in, so I use binoculars to get roughly on target, fire a shot in, and that knocks him out. This shell, as I said, it's big, it's powerful, it will kill things. Now the HE shell, it does have a HE shell, decent amount of explosive filler. I haven't used it much, I find in this kind of tier of gameplay. Of course, a lot of the times, lighter MBTs, Leopard 1s, OF40s, you can kill them with a HE shell. But I just take AP, generally it does the same job, and also it gives you far more flexibility if you get a game with more heavy tanks. And there we go, 6 kills, 2 base caps, again, 3rd in the team. So with that done, let's go move into some other games I did while owning this vehicle. Next up with a 7 kill game on Alaska. So starting off, driving towards the town, decided to spawn on the A side of the map, but I begin to push down, trying to give my team cover in between B and A. That is the plan. I successfully flank through, and now I'm just waiting, and I see a leopard moving sort of in the direction of the A point. Shot to the driver and the loader. I know that he shouldn't be able to drive, certainly shouldn't be able to shoot after that second shot, because it knocked out the remainder of his crew, giving me my first kill of this game. Next up, sort of spawn camping, see an enemy moving away from the spawn, fire a shot, and it ghosts. So I luckily am able to fire right away again, and there we go. It was a TAM, hit the upper frontal plate. Despite being very heavily angled, my shell was able to get in and give me the hull break on that vehicle. Next up, I'm driving down, and this is the definition of a no-scope. Jeopard comes around the corner, and boom. Yeah, sorry about that, Mr. Jeopard. Didn't mean to be so savage there, and actually I kill a few more, well actually not a few more, a lot more, not only Jeopards but other SPAs in this game. Majority of my kills were on lightly armoured SPAs. Here's Jeopard, and yeah, before he can get a shot off, shot to the face. It's the same guy, presuming he had a backup, so he went with it, and yeah, I was waiting there for him. And here we have another one, another shot, hull break yet again, he is dead. So 3 Jeopards in a row there, all of which were killed with relative ease. Moving along, I did see a Corellian driving around somewhere, and then I'm sneaking around, and I notice, oh, what's that? Oh, it's a leopard. Yeah, let's kill him. When you are, if you're driving the Surblind or the Surbias, actually, you will develop a strong hate towards lightly armoured MBTs like the Leopard or the OF40. They're quick, they're sneaky, and they're bloody everywhere. It is very annoying, but they can be dealt with. So now into the final kill of this game. There we go, a TAM just behind the enemy spawn. He had been there for a few minutes. It was near the end of the game. I thought, why not just go take him out? So I did. 7 kills in that game, no deaths, good stuff. So now jumping back to the point of the light MBTs like the Leopard 1 and the OF40, especially the premium variants, the L44 and the MTCA, I believe it is, for the OF40. You will see them a lot. A lot of people obviously driving premium vehicles, they're going to be bloody everywhere. They are a lot more mobile than you, smaller than you, a lot more sneaky than you. So these are sort of the biggest weakness for this tank. You're at 8.0, up tier to 9.0 at times, in a massive heavy tank that has decent mobility, sure, but it's nothing great compared to the stuff you're going to be facing. So you just need to keep very good situational awareness, make sure you can see the enemies around you and know where they are, and if you see them and they're in a lightly armoured MBT like a Leopard or an OF40, well, your round has just over 300mm of pen, so you should be able to pen them, and, you know, it's a 120mm round, you will do damage, so if you see them, knock them out as soon as possible, and, you know, just situational awareness will help minimize the risk and the sort of issue of these lightly armoured premium MBTs or even the tech tree variants. So with that said, let's go jump into our final game of this video, this time on the map Poland. Basically, trying to be as sneaky as possible, trying to get towards the enemy spawn to prevent them moving back to cap the bases. I do get ambushed near the end, but for the most part, I would say it was a fairly successful game. So our first kill is on an MBT-70, shoot him, he shoots me, I hit the lower part of his gun mantle, it goes in, kills the crew, he shot only damages my tracks, a lot of luck there. Next up, a chieftain, he is hiding down in the water near the B point, and as he moves out, I get a side shot, knocking out the crew. That was a bit of a rush kill there, M60A1 Rise, hit the turret ring, went in, set the ammo off, but now I'm in a sticky situation, because behind him was a Magar 3. He now knows where I am. And he's probably going to try and push fairly soon, and that is what I am counting on. As soon as he pushes, my plan is just to fire a shot into him and sort of cross my fingers and hope it kills him, which it does. I get a very high angle shot into the side armor, and it sets the ammo load off, giving me my 4th kill of that game. Next up, enemy tank coming down from the spawn. I don't believe he sees me, but I see him. T95E1, shot goes in, again knocks out the whole crew. This time a Sheridan. Yeah, this guy... Not sure what he was doing. He was looking at me, but he didn't fire, and that gave me the perfect chance to hull break him. And that was my 6th and final kill of the game, before I was ambushed by a group of enemy tanks who all realised, oh right, there's a tank near our spawn, let's go blow him up. And that is what they did. That was the end of the game for me. GG to them. Now that is the end of the gameplay segment. I will now go into the history of the vehicle. This was meant to be at the start of the video, but there's a lot of stuff to go through, and the history bit was about 4 minutes long. I didn't really want to have the video being about 6 or 7 minutes before we actually got to the gameplay, which is sort of the main bit of the video. So I thought, you know what, I'll put this at the end of the video, get to the gameplay a bit quicker, and then we can talk about it, and I'll tag it in the comments and such, so you can click on it if you are interested. Anyway though, with that said, let's move into the history. So the story of the AMX-50 Sublime begins in the mid-1940s, just after the end of World War II, as the French AMX company started to think about the use of a 120mm cannon in an SPG configuration. Now, the original plan was to use the chassis developed for the AMX M4 program, with the chassis essentially being lengthened to equip the larger gun, although this initial idea of a 120mm gun-based SPG was then scrapped with no prototypes produced, but later down the line of development, the concept did lead into the Foch SPG, which mounted, again, a 120mm cannon. Focus then turned onto having a 120mm gun on a turret rather than in the SPG configuration. Work started with a modification again of the AMX M4, with multiple turret designs being drawn up to try and find a good medium between the weight and the size needed to mount the larger 120mm gun. Although it was eventually decided that the AMX M4 chassis was simply not up to the job of carrying a turret with the weight and size needed for the gun that it was planned to carry. The focus then turned to another program, this being the AMX-50. Now this had a much bigger chassis, allowing it to accommodate the 120, and an initial prototype was then constructed. Effectively a standard AMX-50 chassis, and a bigger version of the standard AMX-50 turret to accommodate the 120, this being designated TOA 120. Now, this did actually have a few issues in testing, most notably engine issues. The increased weight did lead to the engine being overstressed, and this caused a few problems. So a new variant was then drawn up in December of 1953, called the AMX-50 Surblindé, which featured a lower hull and the engine power being decreased to lessen strain on the power plant. Now, despite all the work being put into this new variant to make it more effective, it was a completely different version that would first appear in prototype form, this of course being the AMX-50 Sublime, also known as the AMX-50 Up Armored. Now this vehicle was much heavier than the original AMX-50 and also successfully mounted the 120mm cannon and its autoloader system. The hull also had gone through a partial redesign with the distinctive pike nose armor configuration that is very recognizable to fans of Soviet armor, as you know it's mostly present notably on the IS-3, the IS-7 and the T-10. Now this turret design was carried over from the TOA 120 that was initially seen on the first AMX-50 120 prototype, and unfortunately did carry similar problems. Not only were there issues with the gun integration into the turret, but also again engine problems due to the much increased weight and the same power plant being used as the standard AMX-50. Now this had many issues, and the Sublime prototype was actually scrapped due to these issues, which meant that it took it another 5 years for permission to actually be given to construct the AMX-50 Surblindé, which then also had very similar issues and also then led to the entire program being scrapped after 13 years of work. So there we go, we have now looked at the gameplay and the history behind the AMX-50 Surblindé. Very interesting vehicle, I really have enjoyed playing it over the past few weeks to get footage for this video. General conclusions, it's a good vehicle. The fact that it can be up-tiered to 9.0, where it is still a big heavy tank without a stabilizer, can be annoying, although there most of the things you face, due to them mostly being light MBTs and infantry fighting vehicles, you will either be able to one-shot hull break them, or just generally pen and knock out the crew. So for the most part, it's not too bad, but you just need to try and sort of stay covered from some of those tanks. In a down tier, absolutely brilliant. In an at tier, more the same with the MBTs. There's earlier Leopard 1s, they can be iffy to deal with, but for the most part you can do quite well, and as we saw in the first game with the ATGMs from the Type 89, you can get hit right in the face by quite powerful sort of ATGMs, rounds, various things. You can get hit by them, and your armor, despite being somewhat thin for the most part, will still protect you fairly effectively from those weapons due to the nice angling. Anyway though, I think that's pretty much it. Do feel free to let me know in the comments what you think of this vehicle, or any other vehicles you might want me to make videos on in the future. If you did enjoy the video, please consider smashing the like button, maybe even subscribe to the channel. If you do, that would be massively appreciated. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.